All right. Today we're going to learn a very classic debate, actually, that is between Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel. Who knows anything about Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel? Anybody want to share? Never heard of them? Nobody heard of them? Can't be. Milton.
Are we going to talk about their debate about which way to light the candles, with increasing or decreasing amount?
Exactly. Thank you, Judy. Yes, Milton, what did you want to say?
Along that line, these two parties always have a conflict of view, and it's usually that Hillel wins. And
usually, except for 6 cases, I think.
Right, very few.
Very few, right? We usually follow Beit Hillel. Any ideas why?
He had more votes in the...
I think he might have been more lenient. Yeah. Interesting. What I always found interesting is that we think of Beit Hillel as the very patient one. There's a story about somebody who asked Shammai if he could teach him all of the Torah on one foot. Does everybody remember that?
Yeah. I thought that was they asked Hillel. No, they didn't ask. They didn't ask.
I thought they asked Shammai, and Shammai threw him out and said, that's so silly. Like, I don't even want to talk to you.
Right.
And came to Hillel and tried a few times, and each time they bothered Hillel when he was showering, and every time he had to, dry himself and come out, maybe those are 2 different stories. But no, that story is that Hillel said, "V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha," that you should love your neighbor, your friend, your colleague as yourself. He said, well, now you know that. Now I can teach you the rest of Torah. But he did not dismiss him. And I don't know if the person who came was doing it in order to be argumentative. I don't actually know that. So we think of Beit Hillel as the patient one. And yet, if we look in Pirkei Avot, we see that Beit Shammai, one of his sayings is that you should receive everybody besever panim yafot. You should receive everybody with a kind, pleasant countenance, meaning you should be patient. You should greet everyone with a smile. So I had always imagined that Shammai was a gruff and grim person more, or less warm, maybe a cold person. But according to what he says in Pirkei Avot, that's not what it seems like. So perhaps it really has to do more with his worldview, and that's what we're going to be focusing on when we look at the source, a little bit of the source. Remember learning it from this book called Teku. I'm about to try to share the screen, which can sometimes be challenging, but give me a moment.
I'm surprised that it was Shammai that coined the phrase "besever panim yafot."
Why are you surprised?
Because we know of him as being the more harsh one, and
that's what I said, right?
Right. That's why it's surprising, because besever panim yafot is nice and calm and patient.
Right. Yes, that means right. Yeah.
So it sounds like disconnect.
So, or maybe it just means we don't exactly understand Shammai.
Oh, maybe so. Or maybe talking to himself and letting us listen, as Rabbi Weiss likes to say, he talks to us, teaches, and he's trying to teach himself to be more patient.
Oh, that's kind of sweet. I like that. That's very nice. It's a very nice way of looking at it. Thank you. Okay. Let us look first at the source. By the way, there's a really funny story that Rav Chaim Navon tells at the beginning of presenting this classic debate. Share that with you. He says that he was once in Miluim. You know what Miluim is?
Reserve?
Yeah, it's being called up to the reserves in Israel in the army. And he was called up, it happened to be on Chanukah. I mean, people, nothing to do with the war specifically, I mean, when I lived in Israel, my husband at the time was called up many times, called up between 30 to 45 days each year to do miluim. And that's just when you have to manage on your own and hope that everything is okay, because they have to keep themselves, they just need people in Israel to be in the army all the time. So there's a rolling bank of reserves. That's called miluim. And I often think of that when, not now during the war, when women, when let's say their husbands are away, whether on travel or for some other reason, like that is what it's like in Israel, that even separate from the war, that generally the husbands, not usually the wives, although there are women who can be called up as well. It's less common, but it does happen. And that's just it's just part of your life, that your husband's in Miluim and you manage on your own. So he said that there was an officer of security or of safety who came to guide them, to tell them what to do to be safe. And one of the things that he said that was really important is that you're not allowed to light a fire in the rooms, in the barracks. That was one of the things that he told them. And he was just trying to think why somebody would even want to light a fire in the barracks. And he said, well, I mean, it might be if you want to, I guess if you want to smoke, maybe he said that. But after a while, he came up with an idea. I guess if you wanted to light incense from the Far East, that might be a reason. He's telling these men, you might want to. And he said that was so funny because it was Hanukkah. And this person was so disconnected somehow from the festival of Hanukkah. They didn't say, well, if you want to light Hanukkah candles, that could be a reason. So he said that was just his introduction to the whole topic. And he said maybe what it was that he was so upset that they weren't following safety instructions in general that he just completely forgot that it was Hanukkah. So I thought that was just a sweet story that he shared. Yeah, Milton.
One of the things that happens around Hanukkah, unfortunately, is that houses do burn and people do die in those fires. We had
I
a
hope
couple
people
here in
don't
Riverdale
die
over
so
the years.
much. Oh, there was that died on Hanukkah?
I'm not sure whether it was in our community here.
I know that there was a family in Teaneck and in Brooklyn, but it wasn't Hanukkah, it was Shabbat lights, or the Blech, the Plaza, or something like that, or the hot water urn, it wasn't Hanukkah lights. But I personally went to a family Hanukkah party in Israel at one point, and it happened to be that it wasn't one of the first nights. It happened to be that it was the sixth or the seventh night, it wasn't the last night. So it not only did we have a lot of Chanukiot that we were lighting, but each one of them had a lot of candles.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was beautiful. And I remember my mother-in-law at the time, she said, "Oh, I'm so nervous. Something will happen." We're like, nothing will happen. And there was a fire. Now it was put out, and nothing happened, but something did catch fire because really they were close together and there were too many of them. And she was right; it really was not safe. So I agree with you that that's not a small issue. It was just interesting that he said that this person didn't remember that it was actually Hanukkah at the time. There was a really a solid reason why people might have wanted to light, or maybe people did even light with Chanukiot and he didn't realize it at the time. Let's look at,
This partially reminds me, Milton, remember we were learning the laws of Bedikat Chametz, and we were told that you should not use a candle because it's not safe. You should rather use a flashlight.
I agree. I don't use a candle anymore, but I don't know that people had a problem with fires when they were doing Bedikat Chametz, but I don't feel comfortable. And don't forget the wax strips. There are a lot of reasons why it might not be. Yeah, I agree with that. Nice. Thank you, Judy. Be very careful. Yeah.
What about Shabbos candles? That's, comes once a week, not just,
So that was what I said. Maybe you missed what I said when I said that there was a fire in Teaneck and there's one in Brooklyn.
Right. That was
and that was Shabbat. No, I don't know if it was Shabbat candles or if it was the urn or the hot plate. I'm not sure what it was, but it was one of them. And I agree that's an issue. And we wrote in the laws and guidelines, laws and customs and guidelines, what to do if you're worried about fire in your home. And we're going to talk about that a little bit here. Okay. First of all, let's talk about the machloket. Let's learn the source for even all about lighting Hanukkah candles. Do we find it in the Torah? No, Milton, why not?
Hanukkah post-Torah time?
Mm-hmm. So thank you, Judy. So because Hanukkah happened after the Torah was closed, therefore it didn't happen. It just wasn't part of Torah. Yeah, Milton.
Yeah, and there was also this debate that of having the Kohanimship and the political, which is the Melech, having
king.
all in one person. So you have one of the Yehuda HaMaccabee, was it?
Oh, that why would you be militant or lead that way when you're a Kohen? That's interesting. Yeah.
Well, they wanted to separate, like we have here in the United States. We have a Senate and a House of Representatives, and a
Yep.
judicial branch, a president.
Right,
So
not to have all of the power in one hand. Yeah. The leadership powers. Yeah, right. But what's interesting is that there's no Masechet Chanukah. There's no tractate of Hanukkah. Just an interesting point. So we find this in Shabbat. Tanu Rabbanan in Shabbat. So there's very little, I don't know if there's anything in the Mishnah. Oh, there's a little bit in the Mishnah, but mostly it's in the Gemara, the expounding on the Mishnah. And because on Shabbat we talk about Shabbat lights, as Judy pointed out, so because we're talking about Shabbat lights, so the sages kind of riff off of that or continue that theme and talk about Hanukkah lights. Tanu Rabbanan, our sages said, mitzvat Hanukkah, the basic mitzvah of Hanukkah, ner ish ubeito. This is a very famous expression, ner ish ubeito, meaning one light kindled by one person could be the head of the household. I would say that doesn't have to be. It can be anybody over bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah age. And it says in the ish, of course, is using the male form. That's what was accepted, but actually a woman can light for a man as well. It's different in Sephardic custom, but we're not talking about Sephardic custom here. So ner ish ubeito means one light each night for the whole household. So I want to ask the group here, is there anybody here who does that? Is there anybody here who lights one candle or one light each night of Hanukkah and only one Chanukiah? Is anybody here? I mean, if you're more than one person, I'm talking about if you're one person, you would obviously only light one. Does anybody here light any of those things? One light per night, one person only, one Chanukiah. Anybody do that?
If we light 2 or 3 or more lights, you are still lighting the one light.
Judy, wait, that wasn't my question. My
Sorry.
question was, no, it's fine. But my question wasn't that. My question was very specific. Is there anybody here who lights one candle or one, oil? I use oil. That on the first night, one candle on the second night, one candle on the third night. Is there anybody here who does that? No, no one does that, right? Is there anybody here who, if there's more than one person in your household, each of you light one candle each night? One candle the first night, one candle the second night. Is there anybody here who lights more than one candle each night?
Yes.
Or some nights? And is there anybody here who, if there's more than one person in your household, you light more than one Chanukiah?
Sometimes.
I don't know what you said, Judy.
Sometimes.
What does sometimes mean?
Sometimes means it's nice to light together, but sometimes, let's say I'm home and my husband doesn't get home yet. I honestly don't know what to do, whether I should light. And then at first, when the nightfall comes in and you're supposed to light, and then light again when he gets home.
You mean he should light? You mean that he should light separately?
Yes, both, right.
What if you were both home at the same time? Would you both light a Chanukiah?
Oh, no, then we can light one together.
Right, but you could also each light your own.
That's good, yes, right. That's
right,
true.
but you don't do that.
No, right.
So we wrote in the laws, the customs, the laws and customs. Did you read that? Came in the email?
I didn't get to.
Oh, no, no problem. But if you want to look up what to do, you could look it up there.
Okay, good.
We do address it. There are different ways of saying it. If you anyway only light one, that's one thing. But the truth is, I can just tell you, you could light your own. And then when he comes home, he can light his own with the bracha, and it'll be Pirsume Nisa, publicizing the miracle, because you'll be able to see it. So he's publicizing it for you. You would do it on time and put it, let's say, in the window so people could see it. Do you have that option?
Right. Yes, yes, yes. Uh-huh.
So you'd be publicizing the miracle and you'd be lighting it at the right time. And then when he comes home, if he lights before you go to sleep, then he's publicizing it for you.
Right.
So I'm just telling you, that would probably be the best solution for the two of you.
Okay, thank you.
Now, I mean, if he's just coming home soon, you could wait, but there's nothing wrong with doing that. Ruby, did you want to ask a question?
Yeah, I just wondered that if you want the outside world to see it, but you're reluctant to put your live candle, on the windowsill for whatever reason.
Safety?
For safety. What's your feeling about the electric chanukah that you could put in the on the windowsill without that concern?
Are you asking if you can light an electric chanukah?
No, not to light it, but just to have it there as an extra.
Oh, just to have it there? Yeah. But if it's a little, I guess maybe a little misleading. I'm not sure, but you're not supposed to use electric. Let me say again, you can look at the laws and customs. We wrote about that. But what Rabbi Linzer Paskins is that if you can't use a light for some reason, let's say you're in a hotel or in a dormitory or traveling on a plane or whatever reason you're not able to, you should use it, but you have to use a battery operated one, not an electric one. Because when you use preferably incandescent, could be lead. But the reason you do that is because then the fire, so to speak, you have a battery menorah. Very nice, Jill. When you have a battery one, it actually, the power for it is right there. The energy, if you're getting it from electricity from the wall, the energy is back in the electric company, which is just coming through to you, the source of the energy. So it's considered less than fire. That's why battery is better. So I'm just saying, if you're putting an electric one in, that might be misleading to people, that they might think it's a real menorah. That's the only reason that I think not to do it. Mm-hmm. But you could put a battery one. I mean, and so there's no halachic issue with that, Ruby. Mm-hmm. The issue is more, is it misleading to people? That's the only thing. And so that's something for you to think about. I don't have a good answer for you. Mm-hmm. You're doing it as a decoration. You're doing it to show your solidarity with Judaism, and maybe in today's world, maybe that's more important. That's a value, right? We're balancing values. So that would be your decision to make, and I'm giving you all the tools to make that decision, and I'm empowering you to make that decision for yourself. But you still want to light a chanukah in a safe place inside your home.
Yes.
Sometimes you can put a table. We used to do that in Israel. We actually moved the couch and we put a table that was visible from the window, but it wasn't on the windowsill. We put tinfoil on the table, like a folding table, so people could see it from the outside. Just saying, you have to be sometimes creative. Okay, I might do that this year. I'm just thinking it's not a bad idea. Okay, thank you for that question. All questions are totally legitimate. Please ask any questions about Hanukkah. All right. So in any case, I want to remind you, one light by one person per household, you fulfill the mitzvah. So if you didn't have enough candles, or if you didn't have enough oil, or you didn't have nice olive oil, you had like an oil that burns, it's smoky, don't use that. It's not good for you, it's not good for the walls. Or if you're worried about safety, like you're like, I can leave one candle burning, I just don't feel comfortable leaving more than one candle burning, then you can fulfill the mitzvah on one candle per night. I just want to make that really, really clear. And you see it right here in the Gemara. Everybody with me on this?
Yes. Thank
you. Thank you, Judy. And the Mahadrin, so interestingly, there are two ways to understand Mahadrin. Mahadrin can be either, I'm just going to actually put it here, either to glorify, okay. This is the Sfaria's, the Sfaria's comments, that whenever it's not bolded, it's Sfaria's comments. Those who want to glorify the mitzvah, those who are meticulous in the performance of mitzvot, kindle a light for each and everyone. Meaning, what's the second level? Is the second level to light one the first night, two the second night? No. The second level is that every person in the household lights one candle. Meaning, Judy, you would light one, and your husband would light one. The second night, you would light one, your husband, you would already be Mahadrin. You'd already be bringing it to a new level. I mean, Ruby, I'm just assuming. I don't know if that's true. Do you only have yourself lighting at home? You're muted.
No, I don't. I would light with a candle with a.
No, I asked if it's only yourself at home.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this
yes.
isn't so relevant to you
Yes.
because you can't do Mahadran. You're only one person. But Milton, you and Nancy could be Mahadran, right? You could.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You could each light. And I'm just suggesting it. It's quite beautiful to do that. I would love to tell every woman who has never done it, do it. It's a really nice feeling to do it. It feels good to fulfill a mitzvah, to say the bracha. It really feels good. Okay. And then the Mahadrin, min ha-Mahadrin, those who want to glorify even more or be even more meticulous, what do? Now we have a machloket. Until here, Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel agreed. The basic mitzvah, one candle per night. You want to do better? Every person lights one candle. But now that we're talking about Mahadrin, min ha-Mahadrin, the best way to do it, Beit Shammai says, on the first day, you do 8 lights. The second day, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's gradually decreasing the number of lights until on the last day of Chanukah, one kindles one light. I say I really want to fix the way they translate it, but that's okay. And Beit Hillel says, on the first day, one kindles one light, and from there on, gradually increasing until on the last day, one kindles 8 lights. And which one do we do, Beit Shammai or Beit Hillel?
Wouldn't it be Mahadrin, min ha-Mahadrin, to have one chanukah with the style of Beit Shammai and one chanukah with the style of Beit Hillel?
Amazing question. Nobody ever asked me that question. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Judy, for that question. That's such a sweet question. So you could, but here's the problem. You can't make a bracha twice. So that would just be, putting up a second one. And I think it'll be very confusing to people. Because basically we have to paskin like one of them. We don't paskin like both of them. But that's a very sweet question, Judy. And anyway, it isn't what the Gemara decided. Like the Gemara didn't say Mahadrin, min ha-Mahadrin. That would have been pretty funny if they had. And I guess maybe they would have said one bracha, light them both and do one bracha. But I think it'll be really, really confusing. And I think at the time also, people didn't have so much money to waste on, a lot of candles or a lot of oil. But thank you for the question. And we've spoken about the fact that we always keep around the minority opinion, or at least the opinion we don't follow. Why do we do that? What's the reason? Why do we keep around the opinion we don't follow?
To give kavod to that opinion and that person.
To give kavod, to give dignity, meaning there is a reason. Good, very good. And sometimes, although I don't think in this case that it could be we have to follow the minority opinion. So we want to keep it around in case we have to follow it. As we discovered in COVID, we needed minority opinions for many reasons. And now during the war, there are sometimes minority opinions. So all of those are all reasons. Yeah, Milton.
It reminds me of the tefillin is Rav Tam tefillin.
Yeah, Rabbeinu Tam and Rashi, and some people put both. That's very unusual.
Yeah, I've seen them both.
People.
Yeah.
I thought of that too, yeah. Okay, great question. We're just letting it hang in midair. It's a beautiful question. Lance, I know you have something to add. I don't have a lot of time today, So better to drop in a link and then we can all look at it because I wasn't aware of that. I just won't have time to address it. I have to leave early and also my voice is not going to hold up much longer.
Okay, I have
Okay.
to create a link. I'll be
Yeah,
back.
yeah. So create a link. Go for it. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I want to ask, oh, by the way, this is the Rashi. Mahadran, usually we think it comes from Hadar, like pre-Hadar are actually citrus fruits, but the citron, the etrog, is called Hadar. We glorify, it's a beautiful way. It's the most glorified of the 4 species because it has a beautiful smell and a beautiful taste. For those who have ever tasted etrog jelly or etrog liqueur. But Rashi translates it differently. He says that the Aramaic word hadar or chazar is to return or lechazer, to woo the mitzvot, i.e., come closer to them, I would say, and be meticulous. And what Rashi explains is that Mahadran, he said it wasn't so clear from the Gemara, is 1 candle each night for each person in the household. I just brought that to show you Rashi. But I want to ask this group, could you imagine there is somebody who says that that Beit Hillel and Beit Shammai didn't just randomly argue about things, that there was an underlying principle that guided them and that it actually comes out in the Hanukkah candles as well as in other places. So before we go into what Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel might have thought, can you share what would be the reason, what you might think, that we might increase or decrease the number of lights?
The reason to increase is to go up in holiness.
In holiness. That's interesting. I'm not disagreeing with you, but why do you think that's going up in holiness?
You're adding more.
Oh, adding more light. So maybe it's a spiritual holiness as opposed to like a mitzvah holiness.
Right.
No, the reason I'm saying that, is because, for example, we have levels of holiness in our chagim. Chanukah is one level. Rosh Chodesh and Chol HaMoed is another level. Rosh Hashanah and the Chagim is another level. Yom Kippur and Shabbat. Those are actual defined levels of holiness. By the way, how do we know that? Remember how I created that level, that ladder? Anybody have an idea? It's according to how many aliyot we have in the laning. The minimum is like Monday, Thursday, Shabbat, Mincha, fast days, and Chanukah. The next level is when you have a kind of a half holiday when there's Musaf, but you're allowed to do work. So that would be when?
Chol HaMoed.
Chol HaMoed and
Rosh Chodesh.
Rosh Chodesh. So those have 4 aliyot. The next level is 5 aliyot. That's when it's Yontif. The 3 holidays and Rosh Hashanah. 6 is the next level of holiness. There's only 1 day like that a year.
Yom Kippur.
And then the highest is Shabbat, which has 7 aliyot, which is, by the way, Mar, you're not allowed to add aliyot except on Shabbat. Because if you added aliyot any of the other days, you're basically saying, oh, it's equivalent to the next level of holiness. Okay, that was just in parentheses because of what Helen said that you're adding holiness. So I want to unpack that. So it's not going to change the nature of the holiness of the day. All the days of Hanukkah are the same level except for Rosh Chodesh, which we know is a higher level. But that doesn't have to do with how many candles. That just has to do with whenever Rosh Chodesh comes out. So what do you mean when you say you're adding? So maybe try to define that a little better, what you mean by you're adding something by adding more light.
Doing more of a mitzvah, more, as you said, more spiritual.
You're saying more actions in the mitzvah? Because you're lighting more than one?
Yeah.
I'm not pushing back. I'm just asking you to hone it, to define it. So you feel that when the mitzvah has more pieces to it, it feels like more robust, stronger. So no, and I totally hear you. You're saying the first night of Hanukkah, we start with 1, and then we're adding and we add more. And there's a feeling of positivity and uplifting. Am I right? I don't want to say something you didn't say. Okay, wonderful. Thank you. And then what would be the reason then? So we understand, according to that, why you might choose Beit Hillel. What could be a reason that Beit Shammai might choose?
I have a suggestion.
For Beit Shammai, wait, let me just see if Helen has it. Wait, let me just see if Helen wanted to say something.
For Beit Shammai, one possibility would be, well, we started out having enough oil for 8 days, and then it was 7, and then it was 6.
So this is kind of historical.
Yeah,
It's actually describing what happened.
right.
Amazing. You gave 2 fantastic reasons, one for Beit Hillel, one for Beit Shammai. Thank you, Helen. Judy, what did you want to say?
Okay, when you go from 8 down to 1, it kind of reminds me of the song Echad Miyodea. You're like, first, it's more and more and more, and then it's always the end one is Hashem is the one.
Oh,
And
nice. Okay.
so you're going from the world to Hashem, and also it's like
For going down.
more when you're first
Nice.
it's
Very
wide,
nice. Yep.
and then you're zeroing in on the essence.
Well, except in the song, you actually go up, but you
I
sing
know.
it down.
Right,
The chorus sings down, but the bite,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
cool, very nice. So you're saying we end with Hashem, so we want to go down to 1. That's beautiful. What a beautiful reason. Do you want to add a reason for Beit Hillel, or is that obvious to you?
No, Beit Hillel
It's
is,
like
or-
duh, right? Like,
Yeah,
great.
said-
Anybody else have an idea? Thank you, Judy. Wonderful ideas. Anybody else want to offer a suggestion for Beit? It's an interesting question, right? Is there an underlying motivation? Is there an underlying principle that is guiding Beit Hillel and Beit Shammai? Okay, if nobody else has something to say,
Well,
go
only
on.
one suggestion
Yeah.
is, they're arguing machlokes l'shem shamayim. So just the very argument l'shem shamayim is a good thing.
Oh, but not about why up or why down.
Right.
Beautiful. Ruby.
Well, maybe even as you're increasing the numbers of candles, maybe because it's so repetitive, you're diminishing the excitement of it. So if you start off with a total number, it's very exciting to have that total number.
To start with a spurt of excitement. Beautiful. That's kind of beautiful. Nice. Yeah, that is nice. Like you're saying now, when we get to the 8, it's like, okay, so that we've been doing it for 7 days. That's really nice. I'm just writing these down because they're so beautiful. Okay. I think it's, I'm loving that people are finding really creative and beautiful reasons for the opposite of what we do, which feels so counterintuitive to us. So I'm really appreciating that. Okay, 1 second. I'm just reading what Lance said. A Kohen should always light the menorah. What do you mean a Kohen should always light the menorah? What? What does that mean, a Kohen? Where? In the Beit HaMikdash?
No, did you read my?
No, I
to
haven't.
comment.
No, I could not read it. I'm teaching now, but
I know, but if you can't understand it unless you read the comment.
oh, you're just summarizing. Okay, so people
No, I'm not summarizing. Okay, I am quoting from a rabbi who is quoting from the Torah, and he is making assumptions based on his understanding of the.
Right. No, but are you summarizing what this rabbi said, Lance?
I'm giving you the exact words of this rabbi.
That's what I'm saying. Okay, whatever. Sorry. Are you giving us the essence, not summarizing?
The essence is.
No. I can't. I have to leave soon, and I will not be able to listen to it. I
No
appreciate
problem.
it. Maybe next time we could talk about it.
Click on the link and read my commentaries.
Yeah. No. We will click. Whoever wants to, it's in the chat, and you can click on link 100%. Maybe next time we could talk about it, just not today. Okay, 1 second. Just a moment. Okay, I want to go back because I want to finish the thought that I had brought. This is by a man named Rav Shlomo Yosef Zevin, and he wrote a book called Le'or HaHalacha, According to the Light of Halacha. He says many of the controversies between Beit Hillel and Beit Shammai are based on this principle, I would say, not premise. Beit Hillel looks at the current reality. Beit Shammai looks at the potential. So let's look at that. He says, here's an example. In the Mishnah of Shabbat, it says, on Friday, one may spread traps for an animal and birds and fish. These are for people who are hunters. I guess they needed it for food. Only if there's sufficient time remaining in the day on Friday for them to be trapped. But Beit Hillel permits doing so even if there's not sufficient time on Friday, meaning that they'd end up being trapped on Shabbat. So why is that show the difference? Because Beit Hillel looks at the current reality. Right now, today, it's not Shabbat. Today, I'm allowed to. It's Friday. Okay, there's not enough time, but right now, I'm allowed to do it. It'll happen on Shabbat. It'll happen on Shabbat. But Beit Shammai says no. Beit Shammai says if you're doing it a half hour before Shabbat starts, then clearly the potential will only be that it'll be trapped on Shabbat. So that is an example of an argument, a controversy between Beit Hillel and Beit Shammai that speaks to this idea of the current reality and the potential. So who would like to now, according to this, I'll drop it into our chat. Who would like to, according to this, explain why the counting up and counting down? 1 second. Why, I put into the chat. So why would this explain why Beit Hillel would count up and Beit Shammai would count down?
Potential gives you the goal.
I don't say it again. Can you just, explain.
The
Beit
potential-
Hillel is going up. Why is that the current
potential
reality?
gives you your goal. That's the
Yeah,
goal.
say more. What do you mean it gives you your goal? The potential is Beit
When
Shammai
you
going.
know what you're striving for, maybe that's your potential. And so when you're giving the whole total, you are presenting that goal.
Oh, that it had the potential. Right. It's the potential. In other words, on the first day, it had the potential of 8. Oh, you're saying it from a philosophical point of view, that you're showing that 8 is the most, and so you're showing the actual potential. And then, is that what you're saying? I just want to.
You're showing the actual potential.
Right. The potential is of 8, as opposed, and then the second day it's of 7, which is a little bit what Helen said, right?
Mm-hmm.
That it was, yeah, very good. So both of you are speaking that, very good. And then if Beit Hillel says it's the current reality, so what does that mean? Why would you go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8?
You're building.
I'm not sure how to exactly tie that to the current. Maybe it's just first day of Hanukkah, second day of Hanukkah. I don't know.
You expect it to be lasting one day. You expect then, and the second day,
Oh, nice. Yes, that's a nice way to say it. Because it lasted 2 days today, that's the current reality. Nice. That's a much better way to say it. Right? The first day it lasted 1 day. Now, every day, by the way, they didn't actually know how long it would last. So the first day they only knew it would last 1 day. The second day, oh, well, it lasted 2 days. The third is, oh, it actually lasted 3 days. Nice. Beautiful. Very nice. Beautiful, beautiful explanations. Okay, so we'll have to address that another time, Lance. This was about the controversy between Beit Hillel and Beit Shammai, but I will try to look at it so that maybe we'll address it next time. Yes, Milton.
Every day of the 8 days is a potential. The way I heard it was that you have enough oil to last for 1 day. You separate that out into 8 parts. So for every day, there's a nace. It only was a little.
That answers a different question, which I was going to address this time or next time. Why do we celebrate 8 days of Hanukkah if the first day wasn't a miracle? But they didn't do it that way, Milton. They didn't separate it into 8. They only put that one cruise in the first day. So they didn't know that. They didn't know that they should separate it to 8. However, one of the ways of explaining is that there was a miracle that every day it only used 1/8 in the jar. Right. But they didn't know. They didn't separate it. I'm just saying. I mean, the only way you can understand Beit Shammai is by saying only after the fact did we know there was a potential for 8 days. They didn't know when they poured in the oil that there was a potential for 8 days. However, they knew it would take 8 days to make a new flask, a new cruise of oil. That they knew, but they had no way to know that there was a potential for a miracle. There's always a potential for a miracle. It could last 100 days, right? So I find that interesting that for Beit Shammai, it's only after the fact. All right, my friends. It's an interesting idea to think about. Oh, that's something else. One of the things that he says is, should we, this is the unresolved debate, so to speak. Should we focus on reality or on future? And let's just finish with that. Any thoughts? Should we focus on current reality, on future, on both, either one? What do you think?
I mean,
Lance? No? Judy? Yeah.
both. I mean, look at
Both.
what's going on in the war in Israel right now. They have to focus on the reality of today, but they also have to think about the future. Is important.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you. Robert, you want to add something?
I agree with Judy. You have to look at both. You have to look at where your reality is now and have hope for the future. So we plan for the future.
And actually, it's a nice way to say why we keep Beit Hillel and Beit Shammai both around, right? Because we need both. That's a nice way to say it as well. The only problem is, Lance, maybe you can send that in an email because I can't keep all that chat. So that
No
would be
problem.
interesting.
No
You're
problem.
talking about a whole other controversy, which is interesting.
I'm talking about Hillel and Shammai.
Oh, you are? Okay, good. So then I'll read that later. I'm going to go now. Any parting words? I want to wish everybody a Chag Chanukah Sameach. I plan to teach next Wednesday, probably also something about Chanukah. And as I said, I don't know if you were on, Robert, but from January, I plan to switch the topic to Megillat Esther. Megillat Esther. We're going to learn the second half of the year, Megillat Esther. I'm very, very excited about that. Learning it, I know we did 2 other Megillot that were great. I enjoyed learning it with this group. All right, my friends, take good care of yourself. Thank you so much for joining. Always,
Thank you.
each of you. Wonderful to see your faces. Thank you. I'm getting there. All right, bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chag Sameach.